1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters gon' move, whatever click you choose.
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Guard down! Now, for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. Yeah, that's me gassing right there on that intro. And if you want to get that song, hit me up on my email at 16tolife at 16tolifemusic@gmail.com, and I will give you the information on how to get it. Now, let's get into today's video, man. So like I told you guys a while ago, I'm going to start jumping into some of these federal prison stories. You know, it's a couple channels that got some pretty good stories, in my opinion, and I'm going to start reacting to some of these. And so this particular channel right here is, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's Mesa Rith, right? And this dude has some really great stories, man, and let's get into this one right now.
You know, like I say, some of the stories that I want to share with you, I want to make sure that I always have, you know, permission to, because if they're not my story, then I don't feel like I could just come out here and say the things that I want to say or share them with you. But I've been going back and forth with some of the people that I've known that were there with the incident, that were locked up with me, and lack of a better word or whatever, I have the okay, right? So stealing is a no-no, right? Like, I've never had anything stolen from me. You know, when they call when I'm sitting at the table watching TV or something, and they call chow or they call wreck, I take my headphones, put them on the table with my radio, and walk out. I'm not worried about somebody stealing something from me, because for me, from my perspective, if my radio or my headphone is worth your life, then that's what it is. You sold yourself, you sold your life for a radio, or you sold your life for a headphone, or you sold your life for some stamps, whatever it is. There's people in there that really don't value their life because they sell themselves short. Or maybe they're not selling themselves short. Maybe they feel that's what their life is worth. You know.
And that's crazy that he says that, right? Because that is 100% true. You know, some individuals, regardless of knowing they are around some of the deadliest killers and gang members, so on and so forth, will still try to be slick. Also, another thing I want to point out is, that was one of the first contradictions early when I came to the county jail that I realized about the street life, is that individuals would go berserk if they had somebody steal from them. Despite the fact that many of us in prison or in county jail have stolen something from somebody else in one way or another throughout our lifetime, whether we have stolen a person's life, stolen a person's property, stolen a person's car, whatever. That was one of the contradictions that stood out to me. Many of us will do things to others we don't want done to us.
A few books of stamps or a radio or a headphone. You know, they had a native dude that came from the FCI when I was in Florence, and when they called me on the moves, I put my radio down and my headphone down, and he was like, "Hey man, what you doing?" I said, "What's up? Aren't you gonna put that in your cell?" I said, "For what?" He said, "Man, you ain't gonna worry about somebody might steal it." I said, "Man, ain't nobody stealing my stuff." And he couldn't comprehend that, because in the FCI that he was at, shit come up missing. People are stealing all day. And he was like, yeah, in the FCI, motherfuckers be stealing shit. And I'm like, well, how come their head ain't busted? And he just looked at me like, that's what everybody do in the FCI. Everybody condones it, like these dudes that are thieves, they'll have a lookout man. They'll wait for everybody to leave the unit. Maybe one guy will go into somebody's cell or go pick something off the table. But then you got their homies in the cut that's keeping point.
And that's okay. So for those who may not be familiar, right, because I'm not extremely familiar with the federal system myself. So, and I know you have a lot of individuals who watch my channel and who are not from America, right? So the FCI is a lower level of the federal prison system. The USP, the United States Prison, that's somewhat considered like a level 4 if we're talking state terms, right? So the FCI is a lower security level. And that was one of the good things about being on a level 4, right? A lot of dudes on the level 4 was faking in terms of being the tough individuals who they said they were, but they knew that they had many on the yard who was not faking. And so that level of violence kept a lot of people in line. There was a lot of things that may happen at a level 3 that you would not have to be worried about at a level 4 due to the violence that would go on there. You could go to the store and leave your property, your bag, out in the middle of the yard, and it would sit there for hours. No one would dare touch it because they know that touching that bag would get them killed.
But these dudes, they won't last long in the USP. And the story that I'm going to share with you right now is a prime example of that. In Pull-Up, they got some NF dudes. And I'm going to say allegedly,
Viagra and Cialis, they increase blood flow down there. That's why you can physically perform, but they do nothing for arousal.
So this Rougiette stuff is different?
Yeah, Rougiette has an ingredient called apomorphine in it, and
because they already got found, they went to court and got time for the body and all that already, but just for the purpose of this video, I'm just gonna say alleged, right? Anyway, so they have an NF member, and I'm not sure exactly which one they were, but they had a dude named Diablo, Rue, and Droopy. These were the NF that allegedly participated in this incident. Now, in the history with the Northern Familia, they're out of Northern California. And in the state joint, they have an alliance with the Crips and the Bloods. And when they came into the feds, the alliance still held the Crips and the Bloods in the Bay Area, out of California. They aligned themselves with the Crips and the Bloods in the Bay Area out in California because they're at war with the Black Hand. And the Black Hand have an alliance with the Aryan Brotherhood. So, in a sense, it's to even up the numbers. And plus, there's a saying that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So, the Mexicans and the Crips, they go at it. The Mexicans and the Bloods, they go at it. So, it's basically the Mexicans and the Blacks don't get along. Well, the Black Hand and NF don't get along.
I just want to, because certain things at times stand out to me, right? And so I just want to point this out. I just found out today, actually, that this dude, I believe his name is Mesa Rith, right? And I like the way he articulates. I like the way he breaks things down. I just found out today that he's from Utah. But did you notice how he said Mexican? He didn't say Mexican. He said Mexican. And a lot of people at a lot of times will say that black people who pronounce that the same way are intentionally being disrespectful. And I've said for the longest that no, with a lot of people, it's not intentional disrespect. It's the way that they have heard the word growing up. It's the way that they speak, right? And so he is pronouncing it that same way as well, right? I have heard actually other Mexicans who run with blacks pronounce that like that as well, because some of these Mexicans have grew up around blacks for so long and have heard the word spoken that way. That's just the dialogue. So it's not always disrespect, but to be 100% fair, at times I have seen black people online or whatever say that intentionally because they know that it irritates Mexicans, and due to some pettiness, due to maybe something that they've seen in the comments or whatever, now they are intentionally doing it.
So it's only natural that the blacks form an alliance with the NF against the MAs and the Aryan Brotherhood. So when these guys start coming into the feds, they kept their alliance. But you know, with everybody, with every car, there's always going to be somebody that thinks they're smarter than everybody else, that thinks they're slicker than everybody else, that thinks they're tougher than everybody else, and that think they can get away with shit. But there's no secrets in the penitentiary, homie. You know, when something happens, there's always somebody that was there. There's always going to be somebody that saw, and eventually things going to come out. Because let's say somebody leaves a necklace, a gold necklace, or I go into somebody's cell and steal a gold necklace. Well, they don't sell gold necklace in the penitentiary. So obviously I can't sport it, walk around wearing it, because if I wear it, somebody's gonna see that it belongs to somebody that had that shit stolen from them. So for people that steal stuff, they don't steal it to keep it, they steal it to sell it. Well, if I got a necklace from something, if I stole a necklace and I go and sell it to somebody, and I might tell them, hey, oh, this is my necklace, you know, I'm running through some hard times or whatever reason, excuse I give to get this dude to buy the necklace from me. Well, the guy that buys it, he doesn't know that it's stolen, so he's gonna put it around his neck and wear it. He bought it, it belongs to him. Well, the guy that I stole it from, sooner or later, we're on the same yard. It's not like this guy can leave the prison and go somewhere else or whatever. We're on the same yard. So it's only a matter of time that whoever I stole the necklace from is gonna see this dude wearing it. So when he sees this dude wearing it, he's gonna go up to the dude and be like, hey homie, you got my necklace on. Where the fuck you get that? The dude's gonna be like, oh, I bought it. Well, now the dude that got his necklace stolen, it's be like, hey, homie, somebody stole that from me. So it's only gonna be one or two things now. Either he's gonna assume that this dude wearing his necklace is the one that stole it, or that he bought a hot necklace. And now the dude that is wearing the necklace has a choice. He's gonna be like, hey, I bought it from so-and-so, or he's gonna be like, hey man, I can't tell you who I got it from. Now, if he takes that route, see, he's put in a fucked up situation, especially if you stole from somebody that is part of a gang, or that themselves is a formidable dude, you know? Because that dude, he's only gonna give that person that wearing that necklace two choices. And there's only two options. Either you stole it or you bought it from somebody. And if you don't tell me who you bought it from, then I'm gonna assume you stole it and I'm gonna come and get it from you. Because it's not gonna be enough for the dude to be like, the dude that's got the necklace, be like, hey man, I bought it from somebody. I can't tell you who I bought it from, but I don't want no problem. Here's the necklace back. The guy that got his necklace stolen is not going to accept that. Even though the dude is offering the necklace back, he's not gonna be like, all right, thank you, and move on with his life. Because when somebody steals from you, they violated your space.
Now, the person who stole the necklace is really a crazy motherfucker, right? Because first and foremost, you are definitely jeopardizing your life. And like he was saying, you know, there are not really many options you can do in terms of getting rid of this necklace, right? And then one other option I believe he left out is, say somebody comes and they sells an unknowing person a stolen necklace, and then this person, not knowing that the necklace was stolen, puts the necklace on his neck, and then he walks around the prison yard. Say the individual who the necklace was stole from was a no nonsense individual, and plus we know a lot of these dudes aren't the sharpest knives in the kit. They're not working out of the sharpest thinking kit. What if this dude has already said, man, when I see my necklace, I'm fit to just run up and stab that person? And he does, and he goes and he does that when he spots the unknowing individual wearing the necklace. Now this dude is dead, right? So the dude who bought the necklace, in the event he learns the necklace was not stolen, he may be extremely mad at the dude who also stole him a hot necklace, because now you have jeopardized my life. It's so many variables to how this situation could play out, you know, but most variables end up the same way, with somebody being stabbed and potentially losing their life.
And in essence, for them to even come up into your space and steal from you, they're telling you without saying it that they think you're a bitch. They think you're a lame, that you're a nobody.
100% facts. Extremely disrespectful, because even though I never did use the terminology, a lot of people in prison will call their cell their home. This is my home. This is my house. And so for an individual to let you in, everybody's not allowed in people's, you know, some people don't want nobody up in their cell. So for a person to invite you in their cell, their home, their house, or however they refer to it, says a lot. Then you come up in there and you have the gall to steal something from somebody. Like he says, man, I had a firm belief that for the most part, 90% of the people only fuck with somebody they think that they can whoop, or they despise, or they don't hold in high esteem. So once again, yeah, you to steal something from somebody is saying what you think about that person.
And there's people that's got their shit stolen from them that are lames, are bitches, and are nobody. And they don't do nothing about it. They'll see somebody wearing their shit, whether it's their radio or headphones or necklace or whatever, and they just move on because they don't want the funk. But to real dudes, to gangsters, they're not letting that shit ride. One, not only for their own pride, but for what it looks like to the community. Because everybody know that this dude had this necklace, now he don't have it no more, and rumors around that his chick got his shit stolen, and there's somebody else walking around wearing it. You know, whether you agree with our mentality or not, what people perceive about you is very important. You know, you might say, oh, I don't care what somebody thinks about me, but we all do. We all care what everybody else thinks about us, especially if we are the kind of individual that conduct ourselves a certain way, with integrity, that we're on man time. When we have an image and integrity to protect, we're not going to allow anybody to slander that. And they don't have to just slander that with words, but they can slander that with their deeds.
100% facts, right? I remember two incidents. One time I was in the county jail and I was horse playing with an individual named Dan Tanner from Long Beach. I did a story called The Biggest Crip I Ever Seen, and this is who I was talking about. My other homie, who had actually introduced me to Dan Tanner, he pulled me to the side and he said, hey, chill, you know, you shouldn't be wrestling and horse playing with Dan Tanner, because, you know, me and Dan Tanner was cool. But he was saying because then other dudes will think that they can play with him like that. And then, they may get themselves in a wreck. And so, other people will see you playing with him and they think he's that type of dude, not knowing that you guys have a relationship where you guys can get down like that, right? And then another situation, I was in Ironwood and I had a good friend named Little Polo from 1180 East Coast. And this was my everyday dude. We'd kick it every day, chill, play dominoes, clown or whatever. So one day we're outside, we're playing basketball. I think we're on the same team. And, we had a little argument about a play or whatever it was. And so we started talking to each other crazy, but we're playing, but this is how we normally like, man, you pass the ball when you see me open, just talking crazy. Right. And then another friend of mine, Dirty Red from Long Beach 20s, he pulled me to the side. He said, hey, chill, man. That didn't look right, man. That wasn't cool. I'm like, what you talking about? He said, man, the way you let Polo get at you like that. I'm like, oh, that's the homie. He was just like, no, that didn't look right. So basically what he was saying from the outside looking in, everybody don't know that me and Polo is real cool like that. And so people will see somebody else talking to you. And even though they may be playing, they're talking to you in a way that's perceived as disrespectful. Then they get ideas. They start believing they can get at you like that. And then it will open up a can of worms later on.
If I think myself as a gangster, as somebody that goes hard, somebody that upholds the code, somebody's on that man time, and allow somebody to come and take something from me, then I'm really not everything that I think I am, right? Especially if I don't go handle that. When I say allow, meaning that, yeah, I know somebody took something from me and I'm not doing anything about it. So, again, this NF dude, he had a dude come in his cell and stole something out of his cell. And the dude that did it was a Crip dude by the name of Lil C. For me, it's hard to understand, like, from the Crip dude's perspective. He know this dude's a made man, meaning he's a member of the Nostra Familia. You don't get that patch on you. You don't get that tattooed on you. You don't get made and brought into that organization if the people around him didn't believe that individual to be somebody formidable, to be a gangster. And I tell you, there's there's different echelons of gangbanging, of gangsters and organized crime and families and all the rest. For me, my hood is homegrown. It was a bunch of us out here in Utah that got together, started kicking it, end up calling ourselves something, and we went through and put in the works that we thought we were supposed to and end up in the penitentiary and all that. By no means do I compare my organization to these other organizations, But that's not to say that my homeboys are any less of a man or that I'm any less compared to some of these dudes that are made men or anything. I walked the yard with them. I funked with them. I've got some of them that are my friends. So for me, I'm just saying that I acknowledge the different levels of gangs.
I just got to pause real quick, man, and say the way this dude breaks things down, man, this dude, his articulation is excellent, man. And I think this dude has an extremely well understanding of quote unquote the streets and how the street life is supposed to go and the ethics and conducts of an individual that really considers themselves, a street dude, right? A gangster, a Crip or whatever.
So this Crip dude goes into this NF cell and steals something from his cell. Now, how they found out and got and discovered that it was this Crip dude named Lil C in particular, I don't really know, right? But the end result was the NF went over there and butchered him. And end up, what's the term they use on YouTube? Unaliving him.
Now, people, real quick, man, people may wonder why people started using that term, because when you put a word like MURDER in the title, it's very likely that it's going to get less sponsorship. YouTubers get paid off of views of the commercials. So somebody offers, like Pepsi may say, okay, I'm gonna give you $20 for every 1,000 views, and then YouTube will take their cut and say, hey man, I'm gonna give the YouTuber $15 for every 1,000 views. So a video that gets 10,000 views is gonna make roughly about $150. But if you have, those terms in there, certain terms that certain companies may not want to have their company associated with, then you may have other companies who will be associated with that, but for less money. So now instead of maybe $20, a company may only offer YouTube $11, and then YouTube in turn is going to get his cut, and they offer you $7 or $6. So that's why those terms unalive and all that stuff started popping up. Sorry to keep interrupting. I just had to give you guys a little game.
3 of them with homemade knives. We in there and start poking holes in his body. Just think about that for a minute. What is there in the penitentiary that is really worth your life outside of defending your honor, outside of defending your manhood? What material thing in the penitentiary is worth your life? A radio, a necklace, some dope, some stamps? But time and time again, you run into individuals that is willing to take this risk. And like for me, like I said, I can't comprehend it. Like, this is against the rules. Before you've done this, you've seen prior incidents that has happened to other people that have participated in the same activity, lose their life, or get butchered and get their head busted and all the rest of it. But how do you get into a space in your mindset that you feel that it's okay for you to do it, that you're gonna be able to get away with it, or that these dudes ain't nobody and you're just gonna do whatever you wanna do?
So I'm gonna wrap the video up right there, right? You guys go ahead and check him out, man. You see his name is Mesarith, MESARITH, right? And in closing, I want to say he's 100% correct. Some of these dudes just obviously were never great thinkers to begin with, man. I've seen a lot of dudes like will still take these chances despite all the dudes, all the dangerous individuals around they know to be on that yard. And some people just wasn't blessed with good thinking tools. They come to prison with a warped sense of reality, and despite what's going on around them, they continue that type of thinking and action till it gets their ass in a bind. In closing, man, it reminds me of, I happened to be at North Kern, and there was my next door neighbor was a dude by the name of AZ. That was his nickname because he was from, I believe he was African or something, but he was very light skinned. You would not know him to be African. For a long time, I thought AZ was his nickname, but those were the beginnings of his last name. His last name was long, like maybe 14, 15 letters or whatever it was. So they called him AZ. And so as we're locked up in the cell one day for count time. It's around 4 o'clock, 4:30. And so he's talking to his neighbor. He's talking to his cellie. I'm his neighbor. And the way the cells are built that it's a vent between my cell and his cell. And so sometimes if, they don't have the TV on or whatever, and you're talking loud, you can hear. And so basically AZ was a dude who liked to get things, narcotics and stuff, and take a lot of risk, right? And he was basically telling his cellie that as long as an individual wouldn't stab him, he didn't mind getting beat up. He would basically put his safety on the line at times, trying to be slick, trying to get things that he couldn't pay for, or he had no idea how he was gonna pay for them, and just whatever happened to him. He had got punched on a couple of times. I was at CMC East with him. Then we had all moved to North Kern. There was a lot of rumors of things that had happened to him in chasing these narcotics that he couldn't pay for. Right before I left, man, the man was beat black and blue by the OVGs, which is the original Valley Gangsters, for something along the same term. The dude that got something, he made some type of deal with him and didn't keep his end of the bargain. When I say they beat that dude black, because the dude probably was only a couple of shades darker than the guy telling the story, so he was a light-skinned black dude, but man, they beat the crap out of that dude, right? But to his credit, he didn't tell. He didn't snitch. He went back to the cell, and he soaked it up, right? So anyway, man, y'all definitely be sure to go check out this page, man. This dude has a lot of interesting stories on here. Earlier, if I didn't show it, because he started off kind of long, and so I'm gonna probably edit some of it out. But earlier, he was saying that he has permission from, I guess, the individuals who was involved in these incidents to tell these stories, even though it's alleged. He's saying all this stuff is alleged, so we want to make sure that, remember, this is alleged, but he has permission. So I'll react probably to a few of his stories because he has some interesting stories. Anyway, man, y'all already know who it is. It's your boy 16 to Life. Resume normal program.